Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll take a look at how the team is shaping up for game week 38, but first a quick look how we got on in game week 37. So 43 points and yet another drop down to just outside the top 800,000. And the terrible run continues. Since game week 26, I was in the top 100,000. I've had 10 out of 11 red arrows. I think almost every transfer and captaincy call I've made since then just hasn't worked out. Just very similar to last year, really, where I had a really good start and sort of threw it away in the last 10 game weeks. I think the lessons learnt for next year is just to be a little bit more patient and play a bit safer for longer in the season. Maybe sort of wait, until maybe the final 5 or 6 weeks before I go a bit more aggressive. Because I just think if I played a little bit safer with the likes of Fernandez and Haaland captain, picked a few differentials, in the squad rather than captaincy, I'd certainly be up a lot more points at this point. And, I just think I just get a bit excited, really, trying to push hard. And then, it's quite clear and obvious, I think, if I'd been a bit more sensible for longer, it certainly wouldn't have been dropped down to 800,000 anyway. But I'll take a good look at this season over the summer, put some of my thoughts in a video in pre-season at some point. Just sort of lessons learned and, what I think I can do better for next season anyway. So looking ahead now to game week 38, I thought I'd talk through my team as a whole. There's a lot of sort of, debate over which teams are going to sort of start their normal strongest 11 and who's going to rotate. Especially the likes of Arsenal, City and Palace. We've got 9 players from those 3 teams. And, it's quite debatable, really, if any of them are going to start. If, some might get benched, rotated. It's, a little bit difficult to figure out. I think trying to get some team leaks before the deadline on Sunday is going to be really important. So I'll definitely be sort of paying attention to that around 2:30 Sunday afternoon. I think Arsenal... Obviously, I've got 3 of them, Raya, Gabriel and Odegaard. I do think Arsenal, although they've obviously been party mode, I think they're going to start a relatively strong team. Just because obviously with the Champions League final coming up, I want to, keep everybody, in a good rhythm and, not drop off too much. Obviously they've got another week until the Champions League final. And they've had a week rest anyway, so I think Odegaard will probably start because, he's trying to build up his minutes after being injured for a lot of the season. And I imagine Gabriel and Raya should play, but it is, you could make a case for any of them not starting. So, try and hopefully get some news on that. Palace, they've obviously got the Europa Conference League final on the Thursday. So I think they'll start the strongest team. Glasner's always talked about sort of rhythm and wanting to keep the team, keep them playing, keep them going. So I think we'll get an hour out of the likes of Mateta, Munoz, Sarr. All the sort of first team should play at least an hour, maybe a few subs at half time or like 60, 70 minutes. So I am probably going to start Sarr, I think. Mateta potentially too. Munoz is on the bench at the moment, but that's just because I got Diouf at home to Leeds. I think there's a chance I'll get some minutes out of them. And then City's the other one for me. Obviously, Guardiola's last game, nothing really to play for. So I do think there'll be a bit of rotation there. But then Villa obviously have just won the Europa League, so I can imagine they're not going to care too much about this game. So I think it's going to be a bit of a party atmosphere, celebrating Guardiola leaving, or, celebrating what he's done. So it could be a few goals there. But to decide who's going to start and who's not. I think someone like John Stones should start. Obviously, it'll be his last game. Maybe the likes of Foden will start, just to give him some minutes. Hasn't played a lot in the second half of the season. So I do think the likes of Semenyo and Shirky, O'Reilly, it's just really the flip of a coin, to be honest. So I'll definitely be trying to get some team news from them. I think otherwise, looking at my team, I think obviously Bruno Fernandes is probably certain to play. Diouf, obviously West Ham, need to win, so they'll play their strongest team. I think that's a good fixture for them at home to Leeds. I think Thiago is another definite. Obviously, Brentford trying to get into Europe, away at Liverpool. And I've got Solanke, and he is at home to Everton. I think he should be back for that game from what I've read so far, but whether he's going to start or not, I mean, it's hard to say. I think hamstring, it's more likely he'll play sort of 20, 30 minutes at the end if they need him. I'd like to play him because this was one of the fixtures I sort of had in mind when I brought him in a few weeks ago. But yeah, just going to have to see if there's any updates in the press conference for him. And then I think Mukiele at home to Chelsea, that's another guaranteed minutes. But yeah, I don't really see, that being much in that for him. So yeah, I think it's a tricky one this week. Just going to have to wait for those leaks and, see if we get any news. And then I'll just try and pick the team based on, if I get anything from that. I've got one free transfer, so I want to take a little bit of a punt somewhere. Probably a captaincy punt as well. So it's just looking at the teams really that have got something to play for. The likes of West Ham. So looking at Tati Castellanos for them. He scored a really nice goal last week against Newcastle and probably should have had a second as well. He was one that I thought of actually last week before bringing in Odegaard. Was just a random 2-week captaincy, but yeah, he could be a good one to go for. The likes of Bowen, Somerville too, obviously they've got to score some goals, West Ham, and win that. So yeah, I think any of those attackers, good shout this week. I think Bournemouth attackers, the likes of Rayan and Krupi, could be a good shout. Obviously Bournemouth trying to get in the Champions League. They want to finish 6th, definitely. So, Nottingham Forest away, not an easy game, but, obviously they've got everything to play for, and Forest are, just there for, maybe they can climb a few places, but there's not much more in it. But then you could say it could be quite an open game, so Gibbs White might not be a bad shout. I think a lot of people have sold him when he was injured the other week. Obviously, he's been in great form for sort of the last 10 to 15 weeks of the season, really, so he could be a great shout this week. I think the Brentford-Liverpool game as well could be some goals. Obviously, Brentford are chasing Europe. And, Liverpool want to cement their 4th place if they can. The likes of Salah, his final game for Liverpool. That could be a really nice differential. Ungamoa as well. I was looking at him. Yeah, it could be a real sort of random shout. Very low owned as well. And then on the opposite side, Sharda and Dango could add to Thiago and double up on their attack. Wouldn't usually want to double up on Brentford attack, but someone like Sharda, I mean, it's hard to know if he's going to start because I know he didn't start the last game, but he'd be perfect on the counter attack. And Liverpool obviously haven't had a right back really for a while, so whether Joe Gomez does play there or it's Curtis Jones, they've certainly been got at on that side anyway, so could be perfect for someone like Sharda with his pace in behind. And the other sort of random shout was Fleming at Burnley, obviously playing against Wolves. They're trying to obviously not finish bottom. Wolves could overtake them. And Fleming, he's looked decent this season. He has scored a few goals, so that could be a really interesting punt. It's just that I'm never that excited by Burnley, so it's a long shot, but it's one I have considered anyway. So yeah, as I said, for the captaincy, I'll probably go rogue, and it will be whoever I transfer in this week. I think Fernandes would be the safe choice, just because obviously we know he's going to get the minutes, and obviously he's still chasing that assist record, or to go clear as the all-time best assists in a season. But yeah, I think I've got to gamble again. I've done it so many weeks in a row now. It'd be silly to play safe now. 800,000, might as well have another go. Roll the dice one more time. Even Phil Foden, I think, could be a really good shout this week, or John Stones. I think Stones will definitely play. I've got a feeling Foden might get a start this week as well. Obviously with nothing really on the line, and we know what he can do when he is playing well. And yeah, we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, plenty to consider, and yeah, just have a bit of fun on the final day. So finally, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's watched this season. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. The plan for next season is just continue with a weekly team selection series. But I do want to try and get a second weekly video out. Some sort of content that's a bit more general towards each game week, and not sort of focusing on my own team. So whether that's like a transfer watch list style video, a game week review sort of podcast or live stream maybe, some sort of Q&A. I'm sort of kind of open to all possibilities at the moment. I certainly want to try and do a bit of work on the graphics and things. And I'm also looking at potentially doing a second language. I do sort of speak quite a bit of Portuguese. My partner's Brazilian, so that's something that's on my mind as well to sort of help me practice with that. So yeah, if there's any Brazilians out there watching or listening, yeah, please let me know, and I'll consider doing a translated version each week as well. So yeah, lots of ideas. So please let me know in the comments anything you'd like to see. Let me know really, and anything you think I can improve on or do better. Really, all the comments greatly appreciated. So yeah, please do let me know. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.